Who's your commander?
Good luck.
Equip.
Move to combat.
Resolves.
Now, before you attack
Does
me,
anyone have an answer?
well played.
Good game.
Hello everyone, my name is DJ, this is the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel, and I want to take a first look at Strixhaven. I know that it is very far away, it's set to be released in late April, but Magic put out some early stuff so that we can get excited about the set, and I am excited. They've also given us some looks at some cards and some interesting things that will be in the set. And so I want to talk about that with you and look at the commander viability of everything. So the first thing is that there's a lot of cool details and lore in here, like the colleges. There's Lorehold, which is the Boros one. I like this because it's got elephants, and elephants are, look at my logo right there, my thing. Next, we have the Prismari, which is it. We have the Quandrix, which are Simic. The Silverquill, which is Orzhov. Witherbloom, which is Dimir. So these 5 different houses come together in this school-themed set. Now, part of me was thinking that this was going to be way too close to Harry Potter and something that I wasn't really excited to be involved in, honestly. It feels a little bit cheesy, but this first introduction has me feeling good. I like the sound of it because this seems to be broken up by academic disciplines a little bit. Like Lorehold seems to be history. Prismari seems to be like art. Quandrix seems to be math. Silverquill is, writing and literature. And Witherbloom is like biology. And so I like the academic disciplines being split up into these different houses or tribes or whatever in Magic. So I like the look of that. You might have noticed these cards here. We're going to be talking about those cards in a little bit, but the first thing I want to talk about are these cards. This announcement of the Mystical Archive. So in normal Magic packs, they're going to have awesome alternate art of older cards that are not standard legal. Cards like Demonic Tutor, Opt, and Swords to Plowshares. The art on these are looking awesome. That Demonic Tutor is great. And the fact that these are not just expeditions with the chance of being in a pack, or only in collector's boosters, which are $1 bajillion. No, there are a lot of them. There's 63 of them, so there's not a Demonic Tutor all over the place, but I believe that there's going to be enough to drive the price down. And the fact that they're including cards like Demonic Tutor, which is banned like everywhere, means that they are taking a commander look at making sure that these cards represent us. So I'm really excited to see these. You can read about this and also talk about down here. They can say that basically it's open to all. You'll receive 1 copy in its own dedicated slot in each draft booster and each set booster, and at least 3 in each collector booster. I think they heard from us that we felt kind of excluded with the just for collectors products that were so expensive. So these are for all. I also love the flavor of these cards. Like, you're in a school and there's all these school stuff, but in the libraries, like in the archives, you have these powerful spells that are lying dormant that you can discover. I like them a lot. It's very cool. One thing that I like even more, bam, we have the announcement of a Japanese version of these cards. Yes, these cards will be available, but look at these special versions. This right here is Demonic Tutor. Oh, that art. Look at it. I'm so pumped by it. It looks so cool. Now, I don't know what your playgroup thinks about foreign cards or alternate art cards or cards that you just can't read. But because there's no art that says what this card could be, unless you read Japanese, there's not really anything to let you know that this is Demonic Tutor except for the mana cost or just knowing. But I know that this looks cool enough that I'm going to be playing this type of card and it's going to be very desirable. Man, that art is insane. It doesn't just stop with Demonic Tutor, by the way. We've got versions of these for all the cards. There's Opt, looking amazing. And then Swords to Plowshares has got to be one of my favorites right there. The samurai just carrying the plowshares instead of his katana is just so, it's so good looking, man. I really appreciate that they did this. You know, they did it with the alternate art Planeswalkers that had that anime style a little while ago, and that actually went over well. And you could pick up those cards relatively inexpensively. You can still pick them up right now if you're interested. Basically, these cool arts I'm super into, and I'm glad that they're exploring these different art options. I only hope that they can expand this to even more languages. It makes sense that they're going to focus on their 2 largest markets, but it'd be really cool to see these in lots of different languages, giving the treatment to everyone. But anyways, we have this right here. Before we get into the individual cards, let's talk about commander-specific stuff, because that's the evaluation tools that we're going to be using for these cards. Well, this Commander 2021, they're going to be 5 decks, 81 new cards. That's a ton of new cards. This is going to be divided up into the individual colleges. So we know that it's going to be like, you know, a Boros, a Simic, and is it, you know, an Orzhov deck, stuff like that. And they said that they can't really release any of the information about the commanders because, well, it's probably going to spoil a lot of themes of the set. And that might have some of you feeling a little bit anxious because the Ikoria set release for Commander 2020, I thought was very cool, but many people thought it was too closely tied to Ikoria. That basically the Mutate deck didn't do anything for any of their commander decks, and they were disappointed. That the Cycling deck was too narrow and didn't really give us tools for the decks that we all have already. And that's a valid complaint. I do really like the fact, though, that we're given a deck that can sort of start an archetype, that can kind of flesh out one little area of commander. I don't necessarily need generic good cards that can go in every single deck I have. So I kind of like the idea of these cards being narrow and tied to sets, even though it might not have as broad of an appeal as maybe more generic things. We still don't know what these are, but we do have some cool cards to look at. And so we might be able to start guessing at some of the possible themes that we could be seeing in these commander sets. One thing that they also mentioned is that each house, each one of these houses right here, was founded by an Elder Dragon. Well, that's our format. We play Elder Dragon Highlander. So the idea that there could be these ancient Elder Dragons leading our commander decks, and then we have the student body in each house, that could be really cool. You know, I just like the idea of these dragons that exist in these different color pairs. Just very cool. But let's take a look at the cards that we've seen and evaluate them for commander and find out what we have to look forward to. All right, Lorehold command is 3 red white for an instant. Choose to create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible and haste until end of turn. Lorehold command deals 3 damage to any target. Target player gains 3 life. Sacrifice a permanent, then draw 2 cards. So like all the other ones, we're going to break this down and find out if each individual component is worth its mana cost and if their effects we're looking for in commander. This is the most expensive command, coming in at 5 CMC. So I'm hoping that this is the most powerful, the most relevant for commander. Just kidding, it's the Boros one. It's gonna be bad. Let's hope. Okay, first thing, create a 3/2 red and white spirit creature token. That's a mediocre effect, maybe costs between 2 and 3 mana, and I've never seen just a vanilla 3/2 ever played in our format. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible and haste until end of turn. Yes, I like granting indestructibility to our creatures because in a deck where you need to deploy so much to the battlefield, you need to make sure to protect it. But you can't easily protect something for 5 mana. What are you going to do? Deploy your cool bomb on the battlefield and then hold up 5 mana? I mean, especially when there are effects like Boros Charm that cost 2 mana that grant indestructibility to all of your permanents, not just your creatures. You know, this does pop pump the power a little bit, but if you're wanting big effects that deal damage along with that indestructibility, Chroma's Will just does it better. You know, creatures you control gain lifelink, indestructible protection from all colors until end of turn. That's a really strong effect, not to mention Flying Vigilance and Double Strike, you know, and both of them if you have your commander on the battlefield. So that's a much bigger, splashier, commandery effect than just indestructible +1/0 and haste. Next, we have deals 3 damage, gain 3 life, a Lightning Helix. Lightning Helix can be good. You know, if you're playing a Fire Song and Sunspeaker deck, you are going to want to play this card. You're going to be super happy with it. You want to keep Fire Song and Sunspeaker alive, and you love those Lightning Helix effects. But for the most part, we're not seeing these very often in our commander games. Finally, we have Sacrifice a Permanent, then draw 2 cards. It's the card draw we were looking for. No, it's not. You know, Oblation is very rarely used as a card draw effect. Don't get me wrong, I use it as a card draw effect, but most people don't. And the fact that Oblation can also be a removal spell if you need to, and it's still not played very much, I don't know. We know that sacrificing a creature or permanent and drawing 2 cards in other colors is a single mana. So Lorehold Command is feeling pretty weak. We have an effect that costs between 2 and 3 mana that we don't want, an effect that costs between around 2 mana that we really need to cost 2 mana. We have an effect that costs 2 mana that only works in specific decks, and we have an effect that costs between 1 and 3 mana. This doesn't just add up to a 5 mana spell, even though we might have the possibility of a 3-for-1 on the card. It's just not going to measure up. And I'm so sad because that elephant on the front is adorable. Prismari Command. 1 blue-red for an instant. Choose 2. Prismari Command deals 2 damage to any target. Target player draws 2 cards, then discards 2 cards. Target player creates a treasure token and destroy target artifact. I love this card. And the reason why I know I love this card is because I've been a big fan of Izzet Charm. And it's actually because of the looting and the damage that I love Izzet Charm. And look at this. Prismari Command has the 2 damage, has the looting, and has even more flexibility. I also really like that this can kind of be an Izzet Charm because the treasure gives you a refund if you don't have anything else to do. But that last mode is destroy target artifact. So relevant in our format. This is great, and I'm super excited for it. Another reason why I know I like Prismari Command is because I like Kolaghan's Command. Kolaghan's Command, again, destroys target artifact. It deals 2 damage to any target. Those are overlap, and I often find that there's always an artifact to kill or a little creature to take out. Now, Kolaghan's Command, it gets that creature back. I love that effect a lot, but Prismari Command has 2 really good effects along with that, like the looting effect too. So there's its own forms of card advantage, and so I can see a comparison across these 2, so I know Prismari Command is going to be great in a lot of different decks. Quandrix Command is 1 green blue for an instant. Choose 2. Return target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand. Counter target artifact or enchantment spell. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. Target player shuffles up to 3 target cards from their graveyard into their library. Now, this seems really narrow on all fronts. It doesn't even counter like a non-creature spell. It's very focused to artifact or enchantment. Again, those are spells I usually want to counter, but man, there's some really big and scary instants and sorceries out there that this just doesn't deal with. And so, do I want a card that can't deal with a big portion of what's going on out there? Well, maybe there's other utility on this. Bouncing. Bouncing in our format is usually not great, but I've played it before, and sometimes you need it to survive. Finally, we have what I like the most about this, and it's the flexibility to mess up your opponents that are doing graveyard shenanigans. Look, you need answers to graveyards because they just get abused way too much in our format. And not everyone can just slot a Bojuka Bog in. And so if you're looking for something to have limited interaction, but also serve another purpose, I can see this card being played. Finally, 2 +1/+1 counters. only good in +1/+1 counter decks, but I wouldn't be surprised if you use that mode a lot more because you need to counter that artifact and, alright, counters. You know what I mean? But overall, I find that the mana advantage and the tempo of this card and the flexibility means that I'm gonna play it in some decks. Silverquill command is 2 white green for sorcery. Choose 2. Target creature gets +3/+3 in flying until end of turn. Return target creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Target player draws a card and loses 1 life, and target opponent sacrifices a creature. Now, these seem to be effects that we're a little bit more interested in, but I don't know if it's worth 4 mana again. Okay, target creature gets +3/+3 in flying until end of turn. Remember that Silverquill command is a sorcery, so you can't really use this as a combat trick if you're gonna buff something. And this +3/+3 in flying effect, well, a lot of times it's worth about 1 mana. Arrester's Zeal gives target creature +2/+2, and if you cast it during your main phase, it gives it flying. So Arrester's Zeal even has more flexibility, being a combat trick or sort of a +2/+2 in flying. So, wow, 1 mana so far. Okay, these other effects might be really good. Target creature card with mana value 2 or less, graveyard to the battlefield. Again, that's a 1 mana effect. We have Unearth, and this returns CMC 3 or less to the battlefield, and has the ability to cycle away if we need to. Oh, okay. Silverquill command is looking like if you're using those 2 modes, you're wasting a lot of mana and getting not a very strong effect. Okay. Target player draws a card and loses life. This is worth, again, maybe 1 mana. I mean, we don't see this on a lot of different cards, but we know for a fact that we have cards that cost 2 mana, lose 2 life, draw 2 cards. So again, not really pushing it when it comes to the mana. And then the last one's an Edict effect, which costs between, again, 1 and 2 mana. Target opponent sacrifices a creature. It's not even each opponent sacrifices a creature. That's what gets me here. If this was each opponent, I would kind of be in for Silverquill command, because it could reach the levels of like a 4-for-1. But right now, this is not really doing exactly what we want. We don't want sorcery speed pump. You know, we want to return a greater number of creatures to the battlefield. We want more cards. We don't want an Edict that just hits 1 opponent. So, sorry, Silverquill command. I'm going to be looking at other spells. Witherbloom command is black and a green for sorcery. Choose 2. Target player mills 3 cards, then you return a land card from your graveyard to your hand. Destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Interesting wording there. Target creature gets -3/-1 until end of turn, and target opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. Now remember, you choose 2, and at just 2 mana, it feels like this card has to be worth its mana cost. And honestly, it does, just from that first ability. Milling 3 cards and getting a land back, that means that it's replacing itself. I mean, we have cards that mill and get us lands, like Mulch, although we get all of the lands in its 4 cards. Winding Way almost replaced Mulch. Again, 4 cards, but you can also get creatures if you need them too. So these seem to do the mill, get things back a little bit better than Witherbloom command, but this gets a whole nother effect on top of it. Also, you don't have to get a land out of 3 cards you milled. You can be assured you're getting a card back because you could get back that fetch land you cracked 3 turns ago. Now, destroying a non-creature, non-land permanent mana value 2 or less is very relevant. This hits mana rocks, that actually hits a lot of different effects. Granted, some of the most important things are big artifacts and enchantments, but I have a feeling you're going to find a lot of targets for this Witherbloom command. Target creature gets -3/-1. Again, we kind of have the ability to hit utility creatures, but in many cases we really want -2/-2 or 2 damage to get all of those utility creatures across the spectrum, but not bad. Target opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life? Sure. Not really relevant in Commander, but I can see how that could fit in a lot of effects, you know? So Witherbloom command seems good, but I feel like you really want that mill and that land to make this card really fit into all of your decks. By the way, all of these cards are going to see play, and some of them are just going to be slotted in to things like Niv Mizzet Reborn, so that you can grab a card from every single guild. Or Ramos Dragon Engine, you know, a deck that loves to play all of these different charms and different commands. Like, you can see them all throughout this deck because you just want everything being multicolored in here. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to support the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel, you can leave a comment down below, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can also visit CoolStuffInc and use the coupon code JUMBO5 for 5% off your order. I want to thank all of you and thank my patrons. They're amazing. All right, everyone, have a wonderful day. Talk to you soon.